Hello and welcome to the Spirit of a Badass podcast. I'm Alecia Jacobson and I'm here today with Lauren Amburn. Lauren lives in Madison with her husband Bryce and her two sons, Zach and Nathan. I think we met through school with Nathan. Our kids were in the same school. And although Lauren has enjoyed many successful professionally and personally, she only recently fully realized her struggles with addiction. She has been sober since September 19th, 2021, and will share some of her journey with us today. Welcome, Lauren. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Alecia. I'm excited to be here. Yeah.
Great. So today we're going to talk about your kind of journey through life and then kind of into addiction and then now where you are in this recovery space and kind of taking us to that kind of, the messy parts of things and tell us like how you kind of overcame that and how that's a continuous process. But take us there because that's something a lot of women especially struggle with. A lot of women I know, I hear personally, after going through COVID and the results of that, it was very sort of normalized. Kind of take us through kind of that defining time in your life and take us there and tell us about that.
My story is very similar to others, but also different who may experience what I'm going through. I certainly grew up what I felt was a very healthy relationship with alcohol in particular. And I went through college and did the normal fun having and what have you. And then during my adult life, I began experiencing periods. I always considered myself to be, I guess, a good drinker in that I could have fun. I enjoyed lots of different kinds of alcohol, but it wasn't something that was part of my everyday life. It was something that I did on the weekends or did with friends or special events, what have you. And there were certain periods in my life. I had some things that have happened in my past that perhaps I did go a little too deep into making alcohol my coping mechanism. But that never stuck. That never was what I needed all the time until I didn't realize. I'll just fast forward a bunch. I didn't realize or accept for myself that I was out of control with my drinking until probably 2019. And in 2019, when I came to that realization, it became apparent to me that others had come to that line of questioning far before I ever did. And I had always been what I thought to be a very lively and fun person at parties and get-togethers with my mom's groups or my mom groups and friends and things of that nature. And then it became maybe what, I don't know if I'd call it obnoxious or something, or it was like, wow, like I was over the edge on occasion. And then it got to be scary. It got to be really scary for me and especially for everyone else around me. It became much scarier for everyone around me before it became scary for me. It took a long time.
And what do you mean when you say scary?
I believe for others, it was them witnessing me out of control. For me, it was realizing that I was behaving in a way that was foreign to me. I didn't know who this person was. I didn't know why she was doing what she was doing, making the choices she was making. I began to suffer losses in my life. I lost jobs because of it. Either, through my own realization that I can't manage a day-to-day job because this is so on top of me. And I often liken it to being under the control, or, people talk about being under the influence. This was being under the control of something else, always thinking about, when am I going to have my next drink? Do I have enough drinks at home? Is somebody else counting my drinks? Do I need to have drinks in secret so that it doesn't look as suspicious? I was thinking about it. I was plotting. I was planning. I was always in that headspace. And it was the most consuming thing on my mind. And that was heartbreaking to me when I would notice that, because it's not ever who I was or who I wanted to be. It was certainly, I had struggled to become a mother. I was very lucky to get to know my stepson when he was 5 years old, when Bryce and I met. And so I had him in my life, but to have my own was something that was not supposed to be possible. I had so much joy in my life. I had so many reasons to celebrate all the time. And yet there was something in my mind that either needed more or didn't know how to handle, whether it was stress or internal feelings that I was having, of shame or regret or guilt or remorse, anything like that. And alcohol provided a way for me to numb. And that's essentially what I was doing, because feeling the feelings was too much. It was too hard. It was easier to check out.
Yeah.
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 So
it's easier to check out.
Yeah. And so I did, and I went down that path. It's certainly not anything that I ever wanted to be, but so it is. So I'm here. I actually needed to go away for treatment to get the help that I needed. In 2019, when I first had my inklings or my inclination, I should say, that, there might be something wrong here. I was driving under the influence, scary, bad. But again, making decisions like, why am I doing this? Why I don't.
Yeah. What are those? If we can go to those inklings that you said, what were those? Because sometimes people get like those. You get those hits. You get those sort of whispers. You get that sort of gut feeling, depending on where people feel them. What was that like, and what was it telling you?
Well, when I would show up to an event and become aware of the fact that everyone else there had come from work, probably fed their families dinner, and come to this meeting or come to whatever it was. They weren't however many drinks in like I was, right? They hadn't stopped at the bar on the way home necessarily. And I think I would realize that because I would be a little bit louder, a little bit more gregarious. And there's that fine line, because that's a little bit of my personality. I consider myself a bit of an ambivert. I like my alone time. Yeah. I can be a little bit slow to come out, but when I do, look out. So I definitely was noticing that I was coming home at night and thinking, why did I say that? Why did I do that? What was I thinking? And then I would think, well, I've been drinking and probably looking for another drink before bed. Being with my son, either one of them, and being not fully present, and realizing later, maybe they told me something important and I don't remember it. I don't remember all of what they said. Doing things dangerous that were like driving under the influence, or being in the care really of anyone under the influence. Even if it's just my kids at home alone, I was starting to realize that these weren't safe things. These weren't good things. And so in 2019, I went to a detox center, which I can talk a little bit about why I felt I needed to do that. But then after that, I was sober for probably 4 or 5 months, maybe a little longer. And then I decided, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I'm fine. I can do this. And so I started drinking again. I'm only going to do this. I'm only going to have a little bit of this. I'm going to be very careful. And it just snowballed again, and it got worse.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until 2021, and after visits with, in the ER one night, because I became a little bit of a regular at the ER, they mentioned that my liver levels were astonishingly high and that I should not drink at all. I had been avoiding my own primary care doctor because I had done some blood work and things were high, and I was supposed to come back and see how they are again. And I'm like, I know they're not going to be good. I know they're not going to be good. So I just
let me just quietly hide.
Yeah, like, I don't need
avoid
yet. Yeah. And so, so in the ER, that's when they were like, you cannot. And so why I went to detox first time and why I felt like I needed to go to treatment, and everybody around me, my family, my loved ones, they really so desperately wanted me to go away for an extended period of time and get some help, was because I was in a cycle. And this is part of what can be scary about it. I wanted to stop. I wanted to manage it, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to stop. Mm-hmm. It was so on top of me, and my, I can't speak much to the science and what have you of it because I've read a lot on it, but my brain was like, let's go. And the way that it became a need. It became a need in my system. So I wanted to stop, but I couldn't stop. And anytime I would drink, it would be out of control. So I did finally, in summer of 2021, go away to treatment. And I tried. And it took me a couple of times. I went to treatment more than once. It was a very crazy summer for me. I kept feeling like I was going to be able to control it on my own. And that was the biggest mistake that I was making. I realized that I needed support, and I knew that I had support of people who loved me and cared for me. But I had to do some really hard internal work, and I had to be in a safe place to do those things. And so recovery meetings became very important to me. I did some extended outpatient work at a behavioral health center here in Madison, learning new skills for dealing with the things that I wanted to numb from. I knew that my drinking was a matter of life and death. That hadn't gotten me sober. Losing jobs hadn't gotten me sober. My family, sadly, had not gotten me sober. But I did realize that every time I thought things couldn't get worse, they got worse. And so the person I really had to get real with was me. And I was running on so much ego, so much pride. I can do this myself. The professionals that were helping me gave me great tools. Being able to let my guard down came with accepting, and this is part of a 12-step recovery, but it really was part of the biggest part for me was realizing that I was not in control, that the alcohol was in control. And now that I'd removed the alcohol, me getting back in the driver's seat right away was not a great idea. And so I had to open myself up to finding something bigger than me. And a lot of people can find that, through spirituality and religion. A lot of people can find that just in a trusted group of people. Maybe another person who they're sharing everything with, who has walked the same path. So I was doing both, in tandem, getting the professional help that I needed, and then also being with the group of people and being with that one person that I'd chosen and being with, as I will say, my higher power, allowed me to really accept the way that things are, understand a lot about what was happening with me, and then rely and have faith. There's no part of my day that doesn't begin with a prayer, a meditation, hope, faith. It all has to be there every single day. And it's hard.
And that's how you start your day.
That's how I start my day. Yeah. It's the biggest tool that I use. It is, I commit to myself every morning. And my primary focus for over a year and a half now in my sobriety has been still every day committing to myself every morning that I'm not going to fall back into that old habit or that old pattern, that old habit.
Yes. And then tell me, so when you're doing that every morning, you've created this habit of giving yourself this dedicated space and time. What is that like for you?
It begins with, after I grab my cup of coffee, it begins with a pledge, a commitment. I actually use an app on my phone that I make the same pledge every morning. It says what I'm going to do today, which is I'm going to stay sober today, and also why. In my case, it was, it's to be the best me, the best wife, the best mother that I can be. And then I will sit and I will either read from a book that I find spiritually uplifting, or from some materials that I have from recovery, and I will usually pray. Sometimes I will listen to a guided meditation. It's a little bit like I have a toolbox, and whatever I'm feeling at the moment, I always make sure I pick out a few. Okay. But I have all of these things. I have apps. I'll sit in the living room, put on a YouTube meditation, or I'll just put on music on my Sonos and just sit there in silence and let myself breathe and pay attention to my breath. Because the critical thing about doing that in the morning is welcoming yourself to the present, being aware of the present. Yeah. And one of the things that I do have to tell myself every single day is I can't do anything about the past. The past is the past. It's gone. It's there. It's done. I can't do anything about the future. No matter how many plans I make, I don't know what's really going to happen. And I don't even know if I'm going to be here tomorrow. So nothing's guaranteed past the moment that I'm in. And that it's just so imperative for me. Several times a day, I will often say this to myself. I'll remind myself of this, and it helps me tremendously. When I find myself, I like to call it future tripping, or
I love that. Future tripping.
Or, making plans is great. Don't get me wrong. I love making plans. I love
it. But there's a difference.
But there is. I can't live there yet. Yes. I can try and plan a trip with my family. I can set goals and things like that. That's great. But I can't, what I've done in my head so often is, I wonder if this is going to happen. What am I going to do if this happens? What should I do if this happens? It's that always like on guard, being prepared for every possible catastrophe, everything. Yeah. And I have to remind myself to stop, as things come to me in the present, then I can take that pause and decide the best course of action to take. Yeah. So it's
so being in the present and that time that you have, even though you've got your toolbox and you're picking out different things, whatever is suitable for you in that day, the consistent is you have that time, you sort of have your mantra of being, in the moment all the time. Yes.
Always be here now. Mm-hmm. Be here now. Mm-hmm. Be here, be still. That's it for me.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
And I heard you say, the future tripping. So the question I have is like, what sort of learning do you have now?
Mhm.
You've learned like to be in the present. You can't do anything about the
Sure.
past, which that's something a lot of people, regardless of their circumstances, there's a
Right.
lot of ruminating over past things or trying to kind of I call it like manipulating what's going to happen in the future, not in like a sinister way, but just trying to make it all play out the way they want. Yeah. So, what other lessons have you learned that you'd like to share with us?
One of the biggest things that I've learned through all of this is acceptance. It's a really big word, and it's difficult sometimes to wrap my head around. But when I think about acceptance, I think about taking what is before me, or what is happening in my mind, or what is happening around me, and just realizing that it is. It is. Now, if there's something that I can, if it's something that's disturbing or something that I can do something about, great. But if it's not, then quit worrying about it, right? A
Okay.
little bit of stay in your own lane too,
Yeah.
right? Like, so, if something's happening over here that's causing a reaction to me, but it's not anything that I can do anything about, and it just is, then it just is.
Yeah.
And then I can take a moment and say, this is how it is, and then move forward. Because if without acceptance, I find myself caught in this cycle of like denial and anger and resentment. And all of those feelings, all that they do is just start to feed the rat race in my brain, or whatever you
Yeah.
want to call it. It
Yeah.
just starts to feed that frenzy. And that's not having my mind be as sound as possible is something that I really work towards every day. And part of that comes from just aging, but then also I've done damage to myself. I've damaged my body.
Mm-hmm.
And even in my, well, it was a long career of drinking, but maybe not as long as some, but my body did not take it well.
Yeah.
And so I have issues, I have liver disease. My brain, I work on, just like trying to build new neuro pathways and like keeping my mind sharp and whatever every day, because I have a hard time with memory often. And it's scary to me. I don't like it, but it just is.
Mm-hmm.
I can do something about it. If I can accept not just what's around me, but accept myself for who I am, regardless of any poor decisions that I've made, this is who I am. If I accept myself for who I am, I can begin to forgive myself and not ruminate on those things in the past, and realize that I can make a better day for me. I can make a better day for people around me. I can make change in a positive way moving forward. I can be a living, breathing example of recovery,
Yes.
of what it
And
means to live in the darkest place I've ever been in my life and come out on the other side into the sunlight and rebuild what I tore down for years.
mm-hmm. Well, and that brings us to the sunlight. So,
Hmm.
what message would you like to give anyone that may be maybe in your shoes that you were in before, or anybody who sort of is being touched by this? Is there any message that you feel called to share with them?
I do. I do. So there's two messages, one for each of those examples.
Okay.
And the first one is to someone who's going through this themselves, or somebody who just maybe questions, is this a problem? Do I need to change? Don't stop questioning and don't give up, and seek assistance. You might not have an addiction issue, but it's worth seeking information about before it gets on top of you. Getting sober is not something I could do on my own. And you can speak with your doctor or someone close to you, or check out a local or online recovery meeting. You can find any of those online. They do them on Zoom, they do them in person, So I would just say for someone who might be going through this, to start asking for either asking questions of your doctor or someone you can trust, and maybe starting to check out some ways to seek assistance it's not a bad idea.
Okay.
Because I hear a lot about like gray area drinking and things like that too. So
I've heard that recently. Okay. So stay curious, ask questions, kind of
stay curious, ask questions, and stay alert and stay committed. Okay. Don't give up on that thinking. I'm not by any means condoning obsessiveness, but I am also, be aware of yourself, right? Before you go, oh my gosh, I'm in it and I can't stop. So, and then to someone, and even then, don't give up, seek assistance. Yes. But someone who is touched by somebody in their life who may be going through something like this, or they may be worried about someone that they love, you can remain in a place of love and understanding and support for this person. But if you are being touched by somebody who might be going down a path that does not seem healthy to you, it's important for you to seek assistance too. Okay. We went through this personally with my husband. I have friends for certain who have done this very thing, either relying on other people who can understand, or again, there are meetings for people who have loved ones who might be going through something like this, and it's something that is very hard to do as when I say caregiver, I don't mean like taking care of, but someone who gives care to somebody else. Love. It's a hard line to walk. Loving someone while not enabling them. It's very, very difficult. And you're going to need support while you try to hold that line. Yeah. The last thing I want to say is that, remembering that alcoholics and addicts, or people who have potential problems with addiction, generally don't want to stay in the cycle where they are. They're just caught in it and they don't know how to get out. They have a fear of losing their coping mechanism while also fearing the coping mechanism itself. It's a very tricky place to be. So like with myself, there was a chemical dependency that had been created, and it can be very dangerous. It would have been dangerous for me to stop on my own. Yeah. That is why I needed to go to a detox. Every time you can detox in the hospital, but you can also, it's very difficult to do. Yeah. And generally without continued support may not last. Okay. Yeah.
Support for all parties involved.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Love and support. Definitely.
Support. Okay. Love and support for you. Yeah. And I didn't say this
in
the
beginning,
so
much.
But I'm just, thank you for being here, and the bravery and the way that you are able to show up and share this with such openness, because this is something that touches many people. And if any person can feel, seen through your story and be provided, kind of that comfort, and maybe seek the support that they would need. So thank you for showing up here and being your willingness.
Oh, I hope so. I hope that if anybody needs to hear this, that they do. And thank you so much for having me.
It will reach them. I do have one more question for you. So switching gears, taking a hard left here. Do you have a hack or life tip that has helped you save time, energy, or personal resources?
I have to go to something we already touched on: meditation and or prayer. 100%. Without a doubt, slowing down to connect to just the energy of the room, your own personal energies within, opening your mind thoughtfully and stopping that control of narrative and just being. That's what, as I said before, allows me to remain in the present. This has made the most difference in helping me and allowing me to be guided by my intuition, to make clearer choices, guided by, my higher power, which might also be my intuition. I'm not sure. But what is feeling right to me, what feels good to me. And even better, as we talked about before too, I can just accept what simply is.
Yes, good.
It's a really happy place to be. Being able to accept what is, only managing what's in your control, and move forward. So,
yes. And it's such a peaceful place to be, because that's something, every day I hear people, trying to sort of manage all of the pieces that there's no control over.
Right. And that it makes us crazy. It really does.
I got a sticker. I'll share it with you.
Sure.
I put a sticker on my clipboard that I use. Mm-hmm. It says, "Relax. Nothing is under control."
I love that. Nothing is.
Yes. Nothing is. No.
We're so silly to think that we have control.
Yeah. No. Nothing.
Right.
Nothing.
It's perfect.
The meditation. Perfect. I love that message. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, Lauren, thank you.
Always a treat to talk with you.
Yes. Thank you. And
all right, take care.
Talk to you soon.
Spirit of a Badass is a Lit Path Studios podcast and is produced by Jamie Gale and Alecia Jacobson. Music by Shane Ivers. We'll be back with another inspiring interview. Until then, keep your spirits high and your energy badass.